All right. So you know how everyone's using these AI image generators,
Uh-huh.
like ChatGPT, for example?
Right.
Well, we've had a lot of questions from our listeners about what happens to your pictures
Yeah.
when you actually upload them to ChatGPT or any of these other AIs that do this kind of stuff. So for this deep dive, we're going to find out exactly what's happening to your pictures.
Exactly.
We dug into the policies from ChatGPT, of course,
Of course.
Google's Gemini,
Yeah.
and even Perplexity AI,
Okay.
just so we could get like a good idea of what's going on.
Yeah.
We're going to look at exactly how they say they handle your data.
Okay.
And then we'll look at what some other experts have to say about
Yeah.
it. Because, there's always going to be a different perspective on these things.
Right.
And by the end of this, you'll know exactly what to do if you want to keep your image private.
Absolutely.
And, since we're talking about reaching more people,
Yeah.
if you could hit that subscribe button down below, it would really help us reach our goal of 1,000 YouTube subscribers.
Yeah, for sure.
And we'd really appreciate that.
For sure, that would be amazing.
So first of all, let's just start by looking at what ChatGPT has to say for itself.
Okay.
So we asked ChatGPT point blank, what happens to the pictures that I upload?
Okay.
And they said, well, they only use your photos to do whatever it is you're asking them to do at that moment.
Right.
So basically they're saying as soon as you're done with your session, they're not keeping those pictures.
Okay.
They're not storing them long term, and they're also not using them to train their AI models.
All right. Well, that makes sense. But on the other hand, why wouldn't they use them to train the models?
I know, that's what I was thinking.
Seems like kind of a waste.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we found this AI expert, Sebastian Gerardell,
Okay.
and he basically said that, from a developer standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to hold on to at least some of that data
Okay.
to test and improve their models.
Yeah, because it seems like if they're going to make changes in the future,
Right.
they would need to be able to test
Exactly.
whether those changes are actually an improvement or not.
Mm-hmm.
So that does kind of throw a little bit of shade on ChatGPT's response there.
It does.
We also found this other statement from Bot Press
Oh, yeah.
that kind of implied that user information could be used to train ChatGPT's AI models.
So maybe they're using the pictures and they just don't want to say it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, even if they're not saving the literal photos themselves,
Right.
there's still a lot of data that they can extract from those pictures
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
that they could use for training.
Well, I mean, we talked about Lawrence DeVeilers, who's a computer science researcher, and she made that exact point. Even if they are deleting your photos
Right.
after each session, they're still getting information from those pictures.
Mm-hmm. And
And she even said that that data that they pull out from those pictures is kind of like oil in a way because it's just so valuable.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's basically like patterns and,
Right.
information about.
Pretty much anything that's in those pictures.
Yeah.
And BotPress did mention that OpenAI says they won't sell your data without your permission.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that they're not using it, for their own purposes.
Right.
So it's still a little bit shady.
Yeah, it's just like, what are those purposes? Right?
Exactly.
All right, so we wanted to get another perspective on this.
Okay.
So we turned to Google's Gemini.
Okay.
Now, according to Gemini, for the average user, uploaded images could be used to improve their models unless you specifically go in and change your settings.
Right.
So basically, they're saying that the default is that your photos can be used
Wow.
for AI training, which is interesting because that directly contradicts what ChatGPT said.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a big deal
Yeah.
when you think about it. Like you're uploading these photos and you don't even realize that they're being used to train the AI.
And there's a lot of people that probably assume
Right.
that their data is private
Yeah.
when they use these tools.
Yeah, I would assume that too.
So that's a good thing to point out.
Yeah.
And Gemini clarified that if you are using the API,
Okay.
or if you go in and disable your chat history and training, then your data shouldn't be used for training.
Okay.
But they did say that they keep the data
Right.
for up to 30 days just to monitor for abuse.
Yeah. I mean, they have to do that
Yeah.
for security reasons,
Yeah.
right?
But then they said after the 30 days, it gets deleted.
Okay, well, at least there's that.
Yeah.
But then they said that if your data is being used for training,
Right.
then they don't really have like a specific time frame for
Right.
how long they keep it.
Right. So it's like once they start using it, they could basically keep it forever.
Pretty much.
And we also checked with Perplexity AI, and they seem to be on the same page as Gemini
Okay.
with a very detailed and I guess a little bit more cautious explanation
Right.
of the policies.
Makes sense.
So they also said that if you're using the API They'll keep your data for 30 days max, but it could be longer if they're required to by law.
Of course. Yeah.
Which, makes sense.
Yep.
They confirm that unless you go in and specifically opt out,
Right.
then any photos that you upload can be used to train the AI.
Interesting.
And they said that you have to go through OpenAI's privacy portal
Okay.
if you want to opt out.
All right. Good to know.
Yeah.
So it seems like these AI are using our data to train their models,
Yeah.
even if we don't realize it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I guess we should talk about how to protect your privacy.
Yeah.
If that's something you care about.
For sure.
I know I do. So the first thing you can do
Okay.
is go into your ChatGPT settings
All right.
and turn off chat history and training.
Yeah. That's like step one.
Yep. That way they can't use your conversations or your photos to train their AI.
That's good.
Then it's probably a good idea to request all the information that these companies have on you,
Right.
just so you know what you're dealing with.
Yep.
You can do that through OpenAI's privacy portal.
Okay.
And if you're super worried about it,
Yeah.
you can always just delete your account.
Okay.
That'll get rid of all your data,
Makes sense.
but it also gets rid of all your conversations and content. So
Right. It's a trade-off for sure.
yeah, it's up to you. But then another thing you can do is just be careful about what's in your pictures.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Like if there's sensitive information,
Right.
like faces or addresses or whatever, you might not want that being fed into an AI.
Okay.
So just, think before you upload.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
So basically what you're saying is that there's no guarantee that our data is truly private
Right.
when we're using these AI image generators.
Yeah, pretty much. It all depends on which platform you're using, what settings you have selected, and
Okay.
I mean, maybe even what kind of account you're using.
Right.
We didn't really look into that, but
Yeah, it's hard to say.
yeah, it could be a factor.
Right.
So yeah, I think the big takeaway here is just be informed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do your research and manage your settings.
For sure.
These AI tools are really cool,
Yeah, they are.
but they come with a lot of responsibility.
Definitely.
It's up to us to understand how they're handling our data and, make sure that we're okay with it.
Right.
So I guess the final thought I want to leave you with is this.
Okay.
How are you going to balance
Right.
the convenience of AI
Yeah.
with your own expectations for privacy? Because AI is only getting more advanced.
For sure.
And who knows what they'll be able to do with our data
Right.
5 or 10 years down the road.
Exactly.
So it's definitely something to think about.
Absolutely.